Easy there, big fella.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the July 7th meeting of the Cape Cod Regional Government Assembly of Delegates. I call this meeting to order, and we will begin, as usual, with a moment of silence to honor our troops who have died in service to our country and all those serving our country in the armed forces. Thank you, and now we will stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Clerk will call the roll.
Richard Anderson?
Here.
Ronald Bergstrom? George Bryant? Leo Kukunas? Christopher Kanega? Thomas Keys? Marcia King? Here. Thomas Lynch? Here. Teresa Martin? Here. John Oman?
Here.
Paul Pilcher?
Here.
Anthony Scalise?
Here.
Fred Schill?
Present.
Charlotte Strebel? Here. Julia Taylor? Mr. Speaker, we have a quorum with 67.82% of the delegates present.
Okay, well, I know they're all here just because we have an air-conditioned meeting room.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Mr. Kahunas is out in the parking lot on his way in.
Okay. I now need a motion to approve the calendar of business. Okay, it's been moved, seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Have you all had a chance to read the Journal of June 16, 2010? If so, I need a motion to approve that journal.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded. Any additions or corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, now we will have communications from the Chair of the County Commissioners.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I hope everyone had a great 4th of July. I'm sure with all the parades and the fireworks and all the activities that there wasn't anything to miss, that's for sure. Bill Daugherty's not here because he's feeling really poorly. If you saw him at all in the last few days, I don't know if it's just a cold or what, but he's not feeling well. And Sheila's at another meeting, so I don't have a whole lot to say other than I wanted to remind you that the AmeriCorps graduation is next Thursday, July 22nd at 9 a.m. at the Tilden Arts Center. If you've never been to one, it's a hoot. It's so much fun. They have a great time. It's not like any graduation you have ever attended. They do a performance, usually a puppet show, sometimes all sorts of things. It's really very entertaining, as well as you learn something from them. And they tell you what they've learned in the year that they've been here too. So it's a really, really nice morning if you have the time to come. On August 11th is the Cooperative Extension Tour. Each year, Bill Clark takes a busload of people around to some of the areas, places where the county has some involvement. This year, they're going to Falmouth, and the bus, if you want to leave from here, the bus will leave at 8:30 on Wednesday, August 11th, and you will arrive at the Barnstable County Fairgrounds over on Route 151. And the commissioners will have a brief meeting there, and then followed by a tour, and I'm not sure what all the places are on the Upper Cape. I know the Coonamessett Farm, this is the last stop because we will be having lunch there. And so it's a great morning. I know I went either last year or maybe both years. I can't remember now. I remember Charlotte. And we had a great time. We did a lot of Mashpee, I think, last time. So it's a CCRTA bus also that will be there at 8:30 at the county complex. And revenue is usually a question that you all ask. Of course, I don't have my glasses on. But I can tell you that June was a bumper crop, believe me, in home sales. A bumper crop for home sales. In '09, our income was $413,961, and this year it was $848. And that combined with that was the excise tax revenues, and with the county business revenues, the total income and revenues for June was $1,050,354, and which is 53% over June of 2009. But you remember that June 30th was the last day for home mortgage credits, home buyer credits. And of course, we all know that has been extended for another 3 months. But there was a real rush for people who were buying homes to get them, to get all the paperwork done and signed off by June 30th. So that could be a reason why. I did, Mark and I just finished a conversation after our meeting about where we will stand in terms of this year's revenues versus budget. And he's working now on the encumbering of funds that, of bills that were paid in this fiscal year that will not get paid until the next fiscal year. So those monies have to be encumbered. He's also looking at the continuation of revenue in terms of projects that were started this year that haven't been finished, but will have to be paid for next year. So that falls under the title of continuation of revenues. And after all that is done, he doesn't anticipate that there will be anything left. But we won't know that until the books are closed, and they probably will be closed by the end of next week for this past fiscal year. So I don't know if by next week we'll have a final amount, but the week after that we should have something more positive in terms of how we actually ended up the fiscal year.
Is that it?
That's it for me.
Do you have any questions for Commissioner Flynn? Yes, I see a hand. Tony, is that you?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A couple of quick questions. Were the prices of the homes that were sold, I know that the quantity was greater, were the prices back up a little bit, or had they stayed low?
I didn't ask that question.
Okay.
But that's a good question. We can get an answer for you on that.
Okay, thank you. And secondly, the 2 grants that we got, one for the Extension Service and one for the Registry of Deeds, were those anticipated, figured into the budget, or is that cash that we did not anticipate?
I can't answer that one either, Tony, sorry.
Wow.
I know.
I don't ask that many
Well,
questions.
I haven't worked in 2 weeks, you see.
And you get-
We didn't meet last week, so we have to get caught up on information.
And the only other thing is, next week is not the 22nd. The 22nd will be the following week. Next week is the 14th.
That's, yes.
So the graduation would be
The 20, yeah, you're right, it's a week from next
Wow,
Thursday.
you want to ask a question and a right. Wow. I may go home now. Thank you.
Okay, your expectations are too high today.
We were just handed something about economic development, an annual review of economic development. I read an article about an alternative fuel that was being developed in the Upper Cape area, and they were asking various questions about what cooperation they got from various parties, and they happened to cite, the Senate President's office, because I guess they had worked, through that office quite a bit. But they did make a comment that they had difficulty dealing with communities and dealing regionally on the, on getting either information or cooperation or something they needed. It wasn't clear on what they needed, but I was wondering if, the Commission had looked at that and then reached out to make contact with this company just to see whether they had, what the concerns were. And I was wondering if it was just might have been day before yesterday's Cape Cod Times, and it was on. Maybe
Is this the company that's headed by Kurt Felix?
who making the bricks, the fuel?
Yeah, the biofuels?
Yeah. And they cited, I don't know if anyone else read it, where they cited, difficulty dealing with, communities on a regional basis, and I thought, that, it just clicked, and I this triggered it. So I don't know if that's something you want to look into later, I would appreciate that.
Yes, we can do that. I know if it is Kurt Felix's, but it's not his project, because we've worked very closely with him on his biofuel project, and as has Congressman Delahunt's office, as has the scientific institutions in Woods Hole. So I guess I need to read that article.
Can I jump in for a second? Just to
Jump right in.
Yeah, I believe Kirk Felix's project is creating biofuel from algae.
Right.
So
This is
that's why
from
I don't think that this is it's quite different.
a different source, maybe, of the biofuel. We'll take a look at that.
Company,
Teresa?
the company isn't born, and they're making briquettes out of solid waste.
Okay, I did see that. Yes, I read that. And two men who have formed a new company, and I did see that, but I didn't honestly know what it meant. And they did really cite the fact that they have worked very closely with the Senate President on being connected to whatever state agencies would be helpful to them.
It seems like something locally would want to be
Yeah.
supportive and on. And
Yeah.
if they made inquiries, it would just be interesting to see if they even reached out. So it was maybe an outreach to them. asking
That's a
how
good
we can help
idea.
from the county.
Okay, Mary Pat, the increase in the revenue from the deeds tax, is part of that must be due to the fact that we raised the deeds tax. In other words, we're talking about, was it last year or the year before? I'm wondering if June of 2009, we were still under the old formula, and that now we would be under the new increase. Is that right? Can anybody remember back that far? Yeah, I think it's
Wow.
so. Part of I'm saying is part of the increase would be due to the fact that we raised it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, when we do the final numbers here, we'll try to extrapolate those out so that it can show exactly how much came from the increase and how much was just in
We're
more business.
I should know the answer to this question, but I'll throw it out here, is that when after Mark does his calculations on the encumbrances and we determine whether we're going to generate a surplus of any kind, how is that surplus treated? I mean, we normally here in the Assembly, if there's small monies shifted here and there and put into different accounts, it's done by ordinance, or do we just sort of hang out there with that?
Well, he doesn't anticipate that there will be any surplus. That he's not even sure that there will be enough to even fund the projects that were funded for this year.
I can say there's three alternatives. One is that we show a surplus. The other one, we show a deficit. And the other one is that we show to the exact penny, exactly how much, which I think is probably unlikely. So I would think one way or another, we're either going to show a deficit or a surplus. But as long as if we don't show a deficit, that's fine with me. Okay, is there any other questions from any of the members of the, yes, Marcia?
Thank you. Mayor Pat, I'm a little confused by your comment. You just said we had a 53% increase over last year, but then you also just said that Mark is going to use that to fund projects that we have in the budget this year. So you're telling me the budget's not balanced? Because then there's got to be a surplus somewhere. If we garnered $800,000 and the year before we had only garnered $400,000, I'm a little confused. Maybe my math is wrong. So I guess I'm concerned when you're telling me there isn't going to be a surplus when we have such a huge increase. Albeit I understand that, the situation was a little odd because of the $8,000 credit, which pushed a lot of things.
Yeah, because that was in the 1 month. That was just the month of June.
But I don't think we were down 53% for the whole year, because I was going to say, you have no, put it this way, you're going to come back in 2 weeks and you'll have the year. And
Yes, and I think that's the time to really have that discussion, so we really have the numbers, and then they'll be more meaningful, because then we'll know exactly where we are.
Thank you.
And also the projects. Well, the big project, of course, is the lab up on the hill, the health department move. That's $1 million project.
But I thought we had that in the budget.
Yes.
So
yeah.
so why would you use this extra money? This is almost like extra money, so.
It seems that way, isn't it? But, county finances are so different from municipal finances. They really are. So I think we will need Mark to, when he has those final numbers, to explain all of that. The projects that need, so what he means is you take the money from this year, the money that was budgeted for the projects, say for this year, that hasn't been spent yet, and it's not new money, it's the money that rolls over it. It's called continuation what did I say, continuation of revenue. It's really putting it into a fund, not into next year's operating budget at all, but goes into another continuation of revenue funds to pay for the project that was funded in this year. So the money's there, but you're just moving it into another account next year. You could never do that in a municipality. It would end up like being in an article, and it stays in the article, nobody ever sees it. It's not part of an operating budget.
Can we make sure that Mark shows up in 2 weeks from now?
Sure.
And that I would personally request that Mark show up so that we could, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm going to ask, if you don't beg your indulgence, but I'm going to
Sure.
ask Diane to get a hold of Mark that if he could, as soon as he gets those numbers, we'll copy them to the members of the Assembly, so when they come in 2 weeks from now, they already have them in front of them,
Okay.
just so it won't be
That's great.
a surprise. It'll save us some time, but,
Yeah.
If I may?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that in 2 weeks, Mark will have all of the year-end figures, so can we leave it so as soon as he has them, we'll make sure and have Mark on the calendar, okay, Delegate King? Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
I would just as soon there'd be some lead time,
Right.
so that we can get the information within a few days of the meeting, you know.
That would be very helpful for you, I'm sure.
Thanks a lot. So, is that it? Do we have any other questions for Commissioner Flynn? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mary Pat.